How's it going, guys? Gaz here, Full-Time Devils. It's time for another huge debate, and today it's all about a Man United legend, all about Ryan Giggs, whether he should stay or leave Manchester United. Now, by the time this goes out, you may already know what is going on with Giggs' future. He might have announced it, but it's always good to get some opinions in over what we think that he actually should do. Now, I've got two lads with me who know what they're talking about and have some strong opinions on Ryan Giggs, Mr. Stephen Howson and Squawka Dave. How's it going, boys? You all right?
All right, yeah.
Right, first questions first. What is Ryan Giggs? Is he a manager? Is he a coach? How is he actually considered in the footballing world? Like, how does everyone look at him now? What do you actually think that he'd class himself as, Howson?
Ryan Giggs, for me, is a former player at the moment. He's in between jobs massively at the moment. He doesn't know what he wants to do. The club don't know what they want him to do. They didn't offer him a specific role. They just said, pick your job title, apart from assistant manager. And for me, I see the argument for wanting him to stay around. I see the desire for having that connection to former glories at the club. And I see the benefit of having a player that's been there, done it. And think about it, if you're an 18-year-old lad and you're sat in the academy dressing room, if you're being brought into the occasional first-team dressing room and Ryan Giggs is there, you look at him and you go, that's the other end of my career. If there's a funnel for your career, I'm on one side, Ryan Giggs is on the other, where he's gone, and he's the most successful footballer England has seen. He's the most successful player United have seen. He's got the record appearances. He's got 13 league titles. Are we ever going to see a player win 13 league titles again? I wouldn't think so. I really wouldn't think so.
Marcus Rashford.
As an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or even a 21-year-old, you look at Ryan Giggs, and if there's anything that you want to ask him, I'm sure, because he's a United fan, he's going to impart the best knowledge that he can give you. But I also see the desire for him to benefit himself and go on to his career. If he wants to be a manager, he's not going to get that at Manchester United. And I think it'd be unfair to just anoint him as the Manchester United manager. He's got to go and prove that he's a good manager. That's what he needs to do next.
So Alson's just said there are actually some strengths in Ryan Giggs just having him around, the experience for the youngsters, having that type of guy that they can ask questions to. Dave, do you think there's any other strengths that Giggs would bring to United if he actually stays there in whatever role it may be?
I think there's definitely strengths. I think, I completely agree with Howson. He's stuck in this halfway house. What is he? Is he a coach? Is he a scout? Is he assistant manager? Is he a manager? He's got such experience, playing under Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the most flexible, adaptable managers of all time that went on to absolute greatness at Manchester United. If Ryan Giggs can take some of that sort of the consistent improvement that Ferguson made through his career, the adaptability of embracing new styles of play, new formations. Ferguson played it all, the 4-4-2, the 4-3-3, 4-5-1, 4-2-3-1. The list goes on and on and on. But what else he's learned recently, playing under David Moyes, yes, it was a bad period for Manchester United, but he would have got something there, the counter-attacking aggressive style of David Moyes, sitting deep with a 4-4-1-1, or even Louis van Gaal, that obviously it was blighted with poor performances going forward, but defensively, Louis van Gaal's Manchester United were pretty good. The least goals conceded in the Premier League. They pressed very well. They defended as a unit. And they played with a back three. There's a lot of things that Giggs would have picked up there. But I completely agree with Howson. If he wants to become a top-class manager, he's got to cut his teeth at the top level.
I agree what you said then, Dave, about him working under David Moyes and Louis van Gaal. I mean, obviously we know what he would have learned under Sir Alex, but then I do think that he would have learned a lot of positive things under those two as well, even though it wasn't a great time for Manchester United. What I'll ask you as well now is, if he was to stay at Man United, what would his role actually be? I mean, it's pretty obvious that he's probably not going to be assistant manager because Mourinho's going to have that maniac that he brings with him all the time as the assistant manager. So do you think that he could be a coach or under-18s coach, that sort of thing?
I think that'd be absolutely perfect for him. He's cutting his teeth there. If he's manager of the under-18s, that's his squad, that's his team, and he's got to deal with the pressures of potentially losing some of those lads out to the first team, as well as a very competitive league season. Manchester United, what did they finish 11th or 12th last season in under-18s in their division, which is very, very poor. I'd quite like to see him at the under-21s though. I feel that's the right level for him. The gap between the youth and the first team, as well as having players coming back from injury. So I feel like if he could stamp his style of play, his authority on that group, on the under-21s, I feel that'd be the best place for him. Again, Manchester United, won the league last season. So I feel that that's coming in there, a positive group, some good young players, and teach them maybe what it is to be Manchester United, but also as United fans, we'll be able to see what Ryan Giggs' philosophy is. Does he like to press? Does he like to harry the opposition? Does he like to play out the back? Is he a very direct manager? Does he like to get the ball wide quickly? Very interesting. So I feel if we kept him at the club in one of those roles, either 18s or 21s, I prefer the 21s, it'd be good for everyone to sort of understand what Ryan Giggs could bring to Manchester United.
Alison, you're a man who watches the youth regular and is well into the youngsters being promoted into the first team. Do you think that Ryan Giggs is the man for that job then, under 21s manager?
Oh, I just got my camera then. No, I don't think he is. I think
Okay.
I think under 18s is the place I would go for him. I think Warren Joyce and his role at the club can't be underestimated. I think what he does is a phenomenal job. Just look how many league titles he's won as the reserve and under 21 manager. The guy gets titles, and he does it in the most difficult circumstances as well, because his best players are often taken away from him, unavailable for selection. They're loaned out. They're spread from the first team to the 18s. What Warren Joyce does is nothing short of a miracle. But there is an availability at under 18s at the moment. Since Paul McGuinness was relieved of his duties, there is an option there for under 18s, and I think the under 21 role is extremely important. And I think, like being a manager of a first team somewhere, I think you've got to have someone who's got the experience there. Why would you move Warren Joyce out of this extremely important role unless you was going to move him to the 18s? And I almost feel that's a demotion for Warren Joyce. So I would put Ryan Giggs at the under 18s, because there's less pressure on him. From what I'm seeing, United are building a bit of a Galacticos under 18s team for next season. I'm really excited for how our under 18s team is going to go. We're signing about 6 or 7 of the very, very best. We're pinching players from under the noses of Chelsea and Real Madrid from all over the world. And we've also got our own under 16s which are being promoted. You know the names. I'm talking about Angel Gomez and Adi Barlow, them sort of players. We've got a fantastic under 18 team on paper next year. And I think if we had someone like Ryan Giggs wanting to cut his teeth with the hunger and desire to be a top-class manager, he could do no wrong with that side. We would get to see what his playing philosophy was like. We would get to see what his man management's like in a very isolated situation. Obviously, he's not having to deal with transfers the way a first-team manager is. He's not probably having to deal with the egos that a first-team manager has to deal with. He would have the instant respect of every single player in that dressing room. And one of his best mates, Nicky Butt, is the academy director. So I'm sure he would be helping Giggsy out as much as possible. And for me, that's a great opportunity for Ryan Giggs. It's just whether his ego can handle going from assistant manager to the under 18s manager, which in most people's eyes would feel like a demotion. But for me, it's a promotion, because he's gone from... It didn't feel like he was assistant manager. Louis van Gaal would always go that way when he wanted to ask a question, not to Ryan Giggs when he was sat there. Ryan Giggs almost looked like he was just watching a match like a fan for the most part. He would occasionally go and stand on the sideline and give instructions, but it didn't feel like he was part of the side. It felt like the Dutch coaching staff were the assistant managers. Ryan Giggs had this title of assistant manager. So I think if Ryan did go and take over the under 18s, that would be his team. He could bring in the coaches underneath him that he wanted. And like I said, we'll get to see his playing style. It would rest on him, because he's been part of 2 failed regimes. Obviously, he would have learnt some stuff off Sir Alex. He's definitely going to have learnt some stuff off Moyes and Louis van Gaal in what to do and in what not to do. And I see people making an argument for saying, he should stay along because he's going to learn stuff under Jose Mourinho as well. At what point does he stop learning and start doing? So for me, he's got to go and start doing, because, yes, he's still fairly young in terms of it. He's got a lot of experience as a player. But in terms of manager, look at Andre Villas-Boas. He's probably got 10 years on him as a manager. So I think he needs to get his feet wet as quick as possible. And the under-18s is the easiest way to do it for him while still remaining at the club and still being an asset to Manchester United.
Alison, I want to bring it back to a point you did make then, and that was about Ryan Giggs' ego. Do you think that he's being very stubborn and a little bit big-headed at the minute? Because it does seem like that you're getting the vibe that he's actually annoyed that he's not become the Manchester United manager after Louis van Gaal like he was promised. Do you think that maybe we'll have to compromise with him a little bit if we want to keep him at the club, and maybe that means giving him a role like the under-21s manager? Although I do completely agree with you when you say that that's a massive risk. Do you think there's a sort of a compromise that we have to do with Giggsy?
I think there probably is an element of ego with Giggsy, and to be fair to Ryan, he's not really lived in the real world for the last 20 years. He's been one of the biggest players at the biggest club in the world for the last 20 years, having unparalleled success. So to think that he's going to be entirely normal and have a really balanced view of himself is very unlikely, I think. So I'd say there probably is a massive ego at play. But to be honest, Ryan Giggs needs to adapt around us, not the other way around. He needs to think, if I want to be a manager, I either need to go elsewhere, and there is talk of him going to numerous different clubs, Nottingham Forest being the latest one. If there's talk of him going to a club, then fine, go do that. if he's not willing to go and take on the under-18s job at Manchester United, then he thinks far too much of himself as a manager at the moment, because no matter what he did as a player, that was a different game. Being a manager now is an entirely different game. What did Jose Mourinho do in the game? Not a lot, if anything. So what you did as a player has no bearing on what you're going to do as a coach. So he needs to go and prove himself like he was when he was a 15, 16-year-old apprentice at United. He's got to prove himself all over again in this new career.
Dave, I don't enjoy slagging off United legends, and I don't enjoy saying anything derogatory about them. But do you agree that Giggs is maybe being a little bit big-headed at the minute?
I don't know whether he's being big-headed, but he needs to, like Howson said, he needs to be able to cut his teeth, and that's the biggest thing. He needs the experience. You know, you look at AVB, who's been around the managerial scene pretty much all of his career, be it a scout, be it Zenit, be it Chelsea, be it Tottenham. I think that's what Ryan Giggs needs to do. He really needs to go for it, and this is the time to do it. You know, his playing career doesn't mean anything in terms of management, and it's a completely different game. He needs to be smarter. He needs to be able to get the best out of a group. He needs to be able to deal with different personalities. So that is the biggest challenge for Ryan Giggs, is the whole sort of role of management. It's bigger than just being a player and saying, this is what I used to do, this is what we used to do. They have to, you know, he has to be the inspiration, he has to do the tactics, he has to make, you know, if he's going to another club, he has to deal with the transfers. There's a lot of things that he has to manage, and it's that juggling. Can you do it all? It's a big question for Ryan Giggs, but I'd absolutely love it if he answered those questions with, you know, being a great success, because then he can come back to Manchester United, whether it's from the under-18s or from another club, and then be Man United manager. We'll all be happy then.
I absolutely love what you've both said there, really. I think that it would be brilliant for him to become the under-18s manager, that sort of thing. But I just don't think Giggs is going to be for it. So if he is to go, he is to leave Manchester United, try and cut his teeth elsewhere, wherever that may be. Where do you think it actually should be? Dave, tell us.
So I think that if you're looking at the Championship, it's too competitive at the moment for a manager of Ryan Giggs' experience to go in there and maybe achieve. I think that's one of the hardest divisions in world football right now. You look at the competitiveness, you've got Brighton, Derby, Newcastle, Villa, Norwich, Sheffield Wednesday, all really competing for those 3 spots to get promoted to the Premier League. The parachute payments are coming down, money's getting invested into the league. So I feel these got to go to League One or League Two. There's a few managers that have done that recently. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank being one that started at Burton Albion, worked his way up, and now he's QPR boss. I feel that could be would work for Ryan Giggs. A club that would fit for me right now that need a manager is Oldham Athletic. Sat their manager last season, became 17th in League One. It's a local side. You can go back to Manchester United. It's not going to be far for some of those young players to travel, to cut their team at League One level. You look at the problems last season for Oldham is they just didn't score enough goals. They scored 44 goals in League One. Only Blackpool, who were a team that were relegated, scored fewer goals. So if Ryan Giggs can go in there, free them up on the attack, you know, play that attacking style, maybe they'll concede 2 goals, but they can score 4 goals. Probably bring in a few players there, potentially someone like Ashley Fletcher, who did very, very well at Barnsley last season, to go back to League One, help Ryan Giggs out at Oldham. I feel it's the absolute perfect appointment for him. I feel like Nottingham Forest is a little bit too far, but Oldham Athletic right now for Ryan Giggs, perfect.
The problem is with Oldham is they are going through a lot of turmoil at the minute, aren't they, financially and in the background. So maybe, you know, Ryan Giggs wouldn't want to be sort of associated with a club that's in a bit of a state at the minute. Or maybe he'd like to go there and become a hero and save everything. Howson, you look at past Man United players who have left Man United and gone on to be managers, you know, the likes of Ince, Robson, Hughes. Do you think that Ryan Giggs could go in and actually have a chance of coming back to Manchester United, or do you think that he'll sort of be lingering around there like those sort of managers have been? Admittedly, Hughes and the likes of Bruce have done well, but Ince and Robson maybe not so much.
I don't know what happened with Robbo, because Robbo had success at Middlesbrough, and I think the club themselves weren't set up to be successful and maintain, because I think he got relegated, but did he get to 2 cup finals or something like that in one season with Middlesbrough? So I don't think you can say he did a bad job with Middlesbrough. I think he was also there when they had like Janino and Ravanelli there as well, which was an exciting time for Middlesbrough. I'm sure he was there around that.
The thing that I was saying is that they never got back to the level where they could then take over from Man United. Though. So
I was getting back to it.
Oh, go on then, mate. Go on.
In the short answer, I don't see any evidence for Ryan Giggs being a good manager. I'm more than happy to be proved wrong, and I'll be gutted if he isn't a good manager. Because right now, Ryan Giggs is the only player in my lifetime that deserves a statue at Old Trafford. Arguably, maybe Scholesy as well. for what he's achieved at the club as well. But Ryan Giggs stands head and shoulders above just because he won more titles than any of the rest of them. He's the only player from my generation, I think, that definitely should be getting a statue. And he's only going to diminish that if he goes away and he's a rubbish manager, or if he did take over United and managed to finish 10th with him or something like that. He's diminishing his own reputation. So it's a massive gamble for him. But if he wants to be a coach, he wants to be a coach, and that's up to him. I'm not sure he's got it in him to do it. I don't see the desire to succeed the way he did as a player, as a manager. And obviously, I've not sat down with him. I've not had a conversation with him about this. And I'm going off the very limited press that he does, which some of it's MUTV, which we know is sanitized and North Korea-esque. And he doesn't really do paper interviews. So you're trying to read between the lines about what other people say about him and this, that, and the other. And I'm looking at what he spoke about on the Class of 92 stuff. He just doesn't scream winner to me in terms of as a manager. He doesn't seem the sort of guy that's going to put his arm around players. But that completely contradicts some of the reports that you're getting from players who said that that's exactly what he does. So the public and private persona of Ryan Giggs, which is well documented, are two completely different things. So I hope he's successful. But as what we've got to compare with at Manchester United is Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson, which are two of the top 10 managers of all time, of all clubs, in the whole of the game of football. So for someone to be considered a success at the club, they've almost got to equal that, which is mad. That's the sort of standard that them two have set, that you've got to be on that level to be considered a success. So is Ryan Giggs going to be a success at that level? The stats say highly unlikely to be. Is he going to be a manager that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Bruce and Solskjaer and the like, Mark Hughes? Yeah, I would think he probably easily could do. Is that going to be good enough for managing Manchester United? Who knows?
Dave, what do you think? Do you think that if he went elsewhere, he'd ever be good enough to come back to Manchester United and take over? Or do you think that that's just me sort of living in a romantic fantasy world?
Well, I think it's a blank canvas. It's difficult to say what he is going to be because we haven't seen it. And I think that's the key thing. This first role that he takes, it's going to be absolutely crucial to see whether he's good enough for Manchester United. Yes, managers can evolve over time. We all know that, Ryan Giggs is a player that probably came through the academy that was in that ilk of having to improve himself. And you look at how he evolved as a player, being a flying left winger and eventually moving inside and carrying Manchester United from central midfield to that Champions League final against Barcelona. Unfortunately, we lost that final, but he was there and he was the fulcrum of that side. So if he can do that same sort of learning curve development as a manager, then yes, he can come back to the club. Yes, if he puts in the hours. Yes, if he goes around and learns off crazy people like like Bielsa, go out there, go to Lazio maybe, get the assistant manager job there, learn from the crazy man himself, because it'll give them that, extra view on football, on training, on everything. That's what management is. It's like a book. You need to build your book up. Ryan Giggs has a pretty decent book so far. He's got the Ferguson chapters, the Moyes chapters, the Louis van Gaal chapters, but he needs more chapters. He needs his own chapter as well. That's very, very crucial. So he just needs to keep learning. And if he can do that, he can evolve like he has as a player. Why not come back to Manchester United? Why not be a success like Busby, like Ferguson? That's the thing. It's so open right now. He could go of any of either way if we were, considering it on like a dial. But I hope he does. I hope he gets back to Manchester United and leads them to glory.
Right then, guys, put your neck on the line. I want some predictions from you. What do you think is going to happen with Ryan Giggs right now? Where is he going to go? Could he stay at Manchester United? Howson, what do you think?
I think he's going to take a job somewhere like a Forest. And like Dave said, the Championship's massively competitive, but I don't think the Premier League's a place that he should look at as well either, because there's like 10 top-class managers in the Premier League next year. There's not enough success around for them 10 managers, let alone for somebody to cut their teeth. And we was talking about the ego. I don't think I can see Ryan Giggs having the humility to go to somewhere like Oldham and learn his trade. I think he's got a higher opinion of himself, and I think Forest is a decent place. Obviously, they've got European Cup successes in their history. I think that's a place that he could probably go. He's obviously going to get instant respect and love from the fans, I would think, and the players. And if they've got a decent budget to go with him, he's definitely going to be coming back to Nicky Butt, who was one of his mates, and he's going to be going, who can I have in terms of loans? They might help spur him on to something, and I reckon that's what we're going to see. And I reckon he'll do an above-average job, probably around about top half of the table with a Nottingham Forest side if he managed to get a handful of United academy guys in. And I think the clamour for Ryan Giggs to be Manchester United manager will slow down on the back of that, because I think it's going to be, like Dave said, so difficult for him to get success in the Championship that unless he goes and absolutely storms it, people aren't going to be excited about coming 7th in the Championship with Nottingham Forest. And maybe that's quite right. Maybe that's overlooking how difficult a job it is in the Championship. So I don't know. He definitely needs to move on, though. I don't think he can stay for the benefit of his career unless it is to take over the under-18s.
Dave, tell me what you think. What do you actually think is going to happen with Ryan Giggs now?
I hope he doesn't get the Forest job. Forest is a club at the moment that is in a bit of a mess. A lot of foreign money that's come in there. The last time a manager stayed more than 2 seasons was in 2011. Since then, they've had Steve McLaren, Steve Cotterill, Sean O'Driscoll, Alex McLeish, Billy Davies, Gary Brazil, Stuart Pearce, Dougie Friedman, Paul Williams. None of them have lasted over a single year, and I feel like this club, it'll eat you up and it'll spit you out. Obviously, Howson mentioned the European Cups there. They've got a lot of tradition. I feel like it's just the wrong one. I feel like going into going into Oldham with their financial difficulties gives Ryan Giggs a little bit of an excuse. I hope he goes there, but I don't see him going there. I feel like this, perceived ego could be a bit of an issue. I hope he stays at Manchester United. If there were a flip of a coin between Forest and United under-18s, I'd like to see him still at United under-18s, but you never know. I think he might go to Forest. I feel like it's a good pull for him, but could be a really big mistake considering the competitiveness of the league, the issues at that club in terms of their ownership. I just feel it seems like it's going to fall apart for Ryan Giggs, which is upsetting.
What you guys spoke about before when you said that the idea of him becoming the under-18 manager, when Howson brought it up, that would be, for me, the absolute perfect scenario, but I just can't see it happening. I think his ego will be too big. I think what I think will happen is we'll offer him a coaching role on the coaching staff. He won't take it. He'll go elsewhere and do a pretty average job, because I kind of get the feeling that Man United is the only club that Ryan Giggs can be involved in to become a successful manager. But we will see what happens anyway. Guys, get your comments in below. Tell me what you think about Ryan Giggs. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Cheers to Howson and Dave for joining us on today's huge debate. Nice one. See you later.